The Colts haven't beaten the Steelers in their last 7 attempts, which amounts to 14 years. But we talked to a Steelers expert today who tells us why that may be due for a change this Monday night. All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Colts. Let's get
You
to
are
it.
Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. This is Jake Arthur of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and on today's show, I'm going to chat with my predecessor, former Horseshoe Huddle deputy editor, and current writer for Steelers Depot, Josh Carney. I'm sure you guys remember him. He's been on the show before. I'll also bring you the latest Colts news and updates, including some sort of winter bug that's apparently making its way through the Colts roster, making itself known on the injury report. And I'll give my final thoughts and predictions on the Monday Night Football matchup, hitting the Pittsburgh Steelers at Oil Stadium. So Thursday, the Colts released their first injury report of the week. They did have a practice, excuse me, on Wednesday and a walkthrough on Thursday. So Thursday was technically a projection, but DeForest Buckner was given a did not participate with a rib injury. Tight end Kylan Granson with an illness, Ryan Kelly with a shoulder and knee, and then Kwity Paye with an ankle, of course, that he's still been nursing. DeForest Buckner has been through it this season, guys. He's been on the injury report most weeks, it seems like, and it's usually something different. He's dealt with a hip, elbow, shoulder, thumb, neck, and now the ribs, and he's fought through it all. He's barely missed any playing time because of it. So that's one guy who's still performing at a really high Pro Bowl level despite having a litany of injuries that he's dealing with. Full participation from offensive lineman Matt Pryor and tight end Jelani Woods. Now, Woods was a full participant last Wednesday before being a DNP the last 2 days of the week, downgraded to out. He missed the game. So we'll see if that follows the same kind of script or if he returns. You'll see later with our chat with Josh, but it'd be great for him to return because Pittsburgh is really susceptible against tight ends. So Woods could have a big performance on if he's able to go. And so you heard me mention the illnesses, the bug. Matt Pryor had the illness. All experience in the workplace, and I'm sure you can hear in my voice right now. The Colts appear to have a bit of a sick bug rolling through the team at the moment. Last week, there were 3 players that had an illness designation. That was Kenny Moore, Isaiah Rodgers, and Zaire Franklin. Rodgers and Franklin actually entered the game as questionable, didn't know if they were going to play. This week, we now have Granson, Paris Campbell, who was a limited participant with the illness, and Matt Pryor. So, yeah, man, it's something's going through the team. Matt Pryor, of course, he actually had to go to the hospital last Sunday morning after waking up under the weather. The team had to go to the hospital. He had to miss the game. He's back, like I mentioned, but yeah, hopefully that all gets cleared up and squared away soon. It's that time of year for illness. Wherever you go, it's there. Let's just all remember to wash our hands and such. Turning to the Colts' focus on the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Offensively, the Steelers, not great. They ranked 27th overall and 28th in scoring at 17 points per game. They're in the bottom half of the league in pretty much every meaningful category. So there's not a ton there to be scared of. They have some talent. Najee Harris is a pretty good running back. They have some pass catchers that can hurt you. But defensively, honestly, it's a more vulnerable defense than we're used to seeing from the Steelers. I'm still worried about them from a Colts perspective because we've seen what the Colts offense can allow defenses to do to them. They are dead last in pass defense at 272.1 yards per game. It's the cornerback play, really. Ahkello Witherspoon has been banged up for a few weeks now, with a hamstring. He is still on the practice report. Didn't practice on Thursday. So yeah, the Steelers corners are really going through one right now. But this defense still has T.J. Watt. He's been back for a couple weeks now. Um, Cam is an absolute stud. The Colts have had issues with him. Quentin Nelson specifically as well. Alex Highsmith has 9 sacks. And safety Minka Fitzpatrick has definitely hurt the Colts before too. So although the Colts maybe have the advantage, there's still plenty to worry about there. We'll get to more context on all of those things here shortly. But first, this show is sponsored by PrizePicks. This weekend, I know I want to take Commanders quarterback Taylor Heineke with more than 210.5 passing yards against the Falcons, and Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker with more than 73.5 rushing yards against the Raiders. If you guys want to make some picks on game day like I do, just slink into your PrizePicks app on your phone on before game time. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their stat projections on there, then you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That includes, of course, the big three, NFL, NBA, and the MLB. But they've even got like disc golf, cricket, anything you can really think of that's a competitive sport. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. Your withdrawals are safe and fast, and PrizePicks is now operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100.
Colts fans, we are pleased to welcome Josh Carney to the show. Many of you will remember him as the former deputy editor of HorseshoeHuddle.com. He's now working full-time covering the Pittsburgh Steelers, the upcoming opponent this week, for Steelers Depot. Josh, great to see you again, brother. How you doing?
You too, Jake. It's great to see you guys. I'm doing well. We were just talking off air, just how the seasons have transpired for both of us. It's been interesting to say the least, but I'm proud of the work you guys are doing. I mean, I still follow along every day, read what you guys do, and you guys have taken the site to a new level. You, Zach, Andrew. I mean, it's fantastic. So it's great to catch up with you. I haven't talked to you since June, I think.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, man. It's we definitely built something pretty nice there in that first year, but it's good to touch base with you. This was a week I definitely had circled. When I knew the Colts were facing the Steelers this week, I was going to say, all right, well, we're obviously getting Josh on here. So,
yeah, it's a shame we have to watch it in prime time between these two teams. So
right, yeah, the Colts and Jim Irsay have been harping on getting more primetime games for years now, and now they got like 5, and it's like, of course, now they're really as ugly as they've been in a while, and now they have all these primetime games to play.
Yeah, at least it's not the Broncos, where the Broncos almost every week are in prime time. But I'm sure we'll get into it here. It'll be another great matchup, even though these two teams are kind of struggling this year.
Yeah, pretty ugly. I mean, this is a different Colts team than the one you left behind this summer. The expectations were a lot different.
Yeah, just looking 30,000-foot view, definitely from afar at this point. Obviously, they traded for Matt Ryan. I think we were all excited with that deal. They had all the makings of a team. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. They were probably going to win the AFC South. I thought they could make a deep run in the playoffs. And then the season started, and in typical fashion, the Colts got off to a slow start. And then instead of not panicking like they normally do, it was like, just a 5-alarm fire out there where, Jim Irsay had his hand in a bunch of stuff he probably shouldn't have. You make the quarterback change to Sam Ehlinger to see what he has. Then you fire Frank Reich. And then to top it all off, you hired Jeff Saturday from ESPN. Not from, the coaching staff or, the college level. He was at ESPN. So, but to his credit, he's got those guys playing hard. And, I know he caught a lot of flack there from a lot of talking heads and, former players, but he stepped in and I know he's known his limitations, but he's got those guys playing hard. So I'm curious to see how they look on film the last 2 weeks here. I'm going to dive into them here in the next few days ahead of Monday's matchup. But yeah, definitely not the season I expected the Colts to have.
Yeah, unprecedented is a pretty popular buzzword, at least the week of. And the good news is you can tell a change. Like, they went out and took care of business against the Raiders,
Mm-hmm.
and then they should have beaten the Eagles, who were,
Yeah.
arguably the number one team in the NFL last week. They get the moral victory stamp on that one. They wind up with that. But no, I mean, they're playing different. They have a different energy. They haven't come out as sluggish and lethargic as they were before. So that part of it is good to see. So looking at the Steelers, from my general point of view, they have a struggling offense that does have some talent, but it's led by a rookie quarterback. And then on the defensive side of the ball, kind of uncharacteristically leaky. That's
Yeah.
all, it's been their backbone for years and years. Tell me something I probably don't know, just kind of looking as a casual observer.
Man, you mentioned leaky defensively, and they've got the star power, the big names. You've got Cam Hayward, T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, but the cornerback situation, it's got to be one of the worst in the league at this point. They have thrown a ton of resources at the cornerback position. Obviously, this offseason, they signed Ahkello Witherspoon to a 2-year deal. They signed Levi Wallace from the Bills to a 2-year deal. And then at the trade deadline, they shockingly went out and traded for William Jackson III, who ended up on injured reserve. So they're playing Arthur Millette a lot in the slot, and teams are definitely going after them. So, yeah, you've got all the star names. They had a great week one when TJ Watt was healthy against the Bengals. Then, obviously, against the Saints 2 weeks ago in TJ Watt's return, they had a second half shutout and a win. Last week, though, you play a good quarterback that knows how to target guys defensively. These cornerbacks are going to get picked on, and they have another veteran they're going to deal with this week in Matt Ryan. I know that Indianapolis doesn't really have the weapons that Cincinnati does, but Matt Ryan's a guy I think at pre-snap can determine where he wants the football to go, and he's going to go after these cornerbacks, and they've got to be one of the worst cornerback rooms in the league. And if you're not getting pressure on the quarterback up front, you're going to get picked apart. And I think that's something that's being overlooked in Pittsburgh because of the star power they have on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, when I was looking through it, I actually saw, TJ Watt obviously had been out since week one, returned a couple weeks ago, but Alex Highsmith really been carrying the
Yeah.
torch with those 9 sacks. So it kind of brings me to my next point with that pass defense a little bit, though. So they're ranked dead last, so I'm sure there's not a lot of it that's going great. Are they more susceptible to like the quick short stuff inside, or more big plays on the outside? Because the Colts have a couple different ways they can attack things in the passing game.
It's a little bit of both. It depends on the weapons. It depends on the style of the quick game. Like week 11 or week 10, excuse me, against the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans tried a lot of that quick game stuff with Andy Dalton. And the Steelers just completely shut it down on the outside. And I think that was because New Orleans doesn't have those guys that can win quickly. Jarvis Landry's getting up there in age. He was hobbled with an ankle injury coming in. He couldn't really separate. They used their tight ends a lot in the middle of the field, but the receivers on the outside weren't as much of a threat. And then obviously this past week against Cincinnati, you've got Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Obviously they didn't have Jamar Chase in that matchup, but T. Higgins carved them up on over routes, deep crosses, the quick slants, the sluggos on the outside, just winning down the field. So it's a little bit of everything is a problem right now. Pittsburgh's still trying to figure out this style of play they're trying to go for defensively with a 3 safety look with Minka Fitzpatrick, Terrell Edmonds, and DeMonte Casey, who just recently came back from injured reserve. So they're trying to figure things out. They're trying to patch up some issues coverage-wise. But right now, a lot of it is try and get your playmakers on a linebacker. Robert Spillane has been playing a lot of nickel and dime linebacker at this point. He's on the field far too often. Cincinnati targeted him a ton. Samaje Perine, backup running back, had 3 receiving touchdowns in week 11. So I think the Colts are going to have to find a way, and Parks Frazier is going to have to find a way to get, his receivers, his running backs, his tight ends on a linebacker at this point. Because it's not just Spillane that's struggling in pass coverage as well. It's Miles Jack and Devin Bush. All three are allowing a quarterback rating of over 100 when targeted. So it's a mess there. But I think Indy's going to have a lot of success with those deep crosses at this point, especially in man coverage. I think Michael Pittman is going to be able to create separation. I think Alec Pierce is going to have to win downfield. You know, Mike Tomlin mentioned him by name, which is surprising, but mentioned him by name in his press conference Tuesday. He doesn't usually give a shout out to a rookie on an opposing team, but spoke very highly of Pierce. He spent a lot of time with Pierce at Cincinnati's Pro Day, took him out to dinner the night before. So they're very familiar, but Pierce is going to have to win downfield. I think he's going to be one of the faster, more explosive receivers the Steelers have seen in recent weeks, and they are significantly shorthanded at cornerback. So I could see a lot of those deep in-breaking routes and those sideline sluggo double move type routes that they could win with.
That they have started to work more of that in those deep in routes and things like that. That's I feel like they get him on more like longer developing stuff, and of course they've given up a tied for league high 40 sacks, so they don't always have time to get him the ball. But when you were talking about T. Higgins' impact last week, that to me that just had Michael Pittman written all over it.
Yes.
If they can make that work. And you also mentioned the linebackers struggling in coverage. I've kind of been pounding the table to get the tight ends more involved, because they've really only had like one game this season where the tight ends were heavily involved. And it just so happened they put up a league high performance to that point for a tight end group. So it can be done. And like Kylan Granson is doing some nice things after the catch. So I'm glad to hear you say that, but we'll see if they actually try and mix them in.
Yeah, this is the week for it. I mean, these guys try. I will not fault the effort from the Steelers linebackers, but they just don't play well in space. If you have time this week, go back and look at the matchup this past weekend. Hayden Hurst just destroyed the Steelers linebackers over the middle. For some reason, when Robert Spillane's on the field, he finds himself in a mismatch far too often, whether it's a slot receiver or, a wide aligned tight end. The Colts have to search for that this week, and they have the guys at tight end to do it. I know Kylan Granson has stepped up in recent weeks. Jelani Woods is one of my favorite tight ends, I think, in the league at this point. And ALIE-COX has been rather quiet, but he's still a freak of nature. So there are opportunities this week, I think, for the tight ends for Indy to definitely get back involved and make some plays. Terrell Edmonds is fantastic against tight ends. He's kind of been the key to taking away tight ends lately, but with the Steelers' struggles to consistently stop the run, he's been moving down into the box more as that extra linebacker. And we know how well Jonathan Taylor can take over a game and how well the Colts have run the ball in the last few weeks. So that's going to be a tall task for the Steelers. But yeah, this has to be the week for the Colts tight ends, because Pittsburgh's linebackers are not good in coverage at all.
Yeah, I would love to see it. And just looking at like Pittsburgh's offense, for example, just looking at things on the surface, they're ranking the bottom half of the league in most meaningful categories. But is there something the offense provides that the Colts probably should be wary of?
It's a good question. I think lately, the last few weeks coming out of the bye week, Kenny Pickett has used his legs a lot more. I think that's a challenge for every defense when a quarterback can use his legs.
Jalen Hurts just won the game last week.
Correct. Correct. And I think the Steelers I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is Jalen Hurts whatsoever,
right.
but there is that opportunity to kind of look at what Philadelphia did well against Indianapolis and ask Pickett to kind of do some of that stuff. They used Kenny Pickett in read options last week. It was very interesting. Hadn't seen that to this point in the year, but they used him in some read options. He's been good at extending plays and making throws on the run. He's going to be difficult to deal with from that standpoint. The Steelers' offensive line isn't very good. They're going to be facing a very good, very talented Colts front. Those guys got a ton of press from Mike Tomlin on Tuesday. He spoke for about 5 minutes about the front four in Indianapolis, which was pretty remarkable because he typically doesn't dive that deep into an opposing team. But I think Kenny Pickett using his legs is going to be the challenge for the Colts, and it'll help if they continue to push the football down the field like they did the last 2 weeks. Last week was Pickett's best performance in the first half of the year, or the first half of the game against the Bengals, excuse me. He really looked like he had found something. He was pushing the football down the field. He was accurate, on time, had anticipation, and then things fell apart in the second half. But his legs can be a real challenge for defenses, especially as he gets more comfortable and confident using them.
Yeah, I think it'd be wise to do that. Even unscripted stuff like a quarterback just picking up the first down out of bounds on 3rd and 4. Simple stuff like that can
Huge.
just be. It can be, yeah. And the Colts, of course, are kind of susceptible to that. So the Colts are favorites in this one on the betting line, but they've been kind of a hard team to count on to win games. Do you have a prediction for how you think this one's going to turn out?
I do. I actually, coming into the week, I had Colts 23, Steelers 19. I just think that Kenny Pickett is still trying to grow, and there is still enough talent on that Indianapolis defense under Gus Bradley to make things difficult, try and disguise some things. I do wonder. Kenny Pickett, for his warts this year, he is still confident throwing the football. He's not afraid to go at anybody. He said after the game Sunday, I'm going to keep slinging it even if I make mistakes. It sounds all well and good in theory, but when you go to target Stephon Gilmore, it makes things rather difficult. So I wonder if that's going to kind of cut the field in half a little bit. Teams have been scheming to take away Deontay Johnson, so it's kind of been a one read, one side of the field type of game for Pickett right now. And I just don't think that the Steelers are going to be able to sustain drives long enough against that Colts defense and put up enough points to come up with a win. Defensively, Matt Ryan, veteran quarterback, been there, done that guy, former MVP. Having him back in the lineup had me put the Colts over the Steelers here. If this was Sam Ehlinger, I probably would have picked the Steelers, but Matt Ryan's kind of just that force multiplier for me when it comes to playing the Steelers defense and the issues they have in the secondary. So yeah, Colts 23, Steelers 19. The Steelers will fall to 3-8, and I think the season will be completely over at that point.
Yeah, I've still got more work to do to convince myself there's going to be more offense in this game, but my initial prediction was 16-10 Colts.
Yeah.
The defenses are the strong suit for both sides. Both offenses, we've seen them struggle about as bad as they can at certain times. So it's hard for me to give the Colts 20 points sometimes,
Yeah, no, I totally understand it. A lot of my predictions this year have been the Steelers scoring under 20 points. But I think that right now this defense is so banged up at cornerback, and things are just going in the wrong direction for them there at this point in the season, that they're going to have trouble stopping anybody consistently unless the pass rush just becomes otherworldly again like it has been in recent years.
Yeah, I think Colts fans are certainly ready for another decent offensive performance after some of the most recent ones. But I think that's all I got for you today, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Thanks again to Josh for joining us. Be sure to follow him on Twitter if you're not already at by Josh Carney. I'll give you guys my final take on the game just here in a moment. But first, today's show is also sponsored by our friends at SimpliSafe. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package theft spike nationally? That's why our friends at SimpliSafe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security so more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your SimpliSafe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. Here's why I love it. Being able to control the system and seeing everything going on at your house with crystal clear resolution just from your phone, that's awesome and it gives great peace of mind. SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. That's a third year in a row, so you know they're legit. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence and verify that the threat is real, so you can get a priority police response. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend. Get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, so you guys have probably heard me say a couple times this week. 16-10 is my initial just gut feeling for this this outcome. 16-10 Colts. The Steelers' offense is just ugly, kind of ugly, led by a rookie quarterback who's prone to giving them gifts. Just a 3 to 8 touchdown to turnover ratio, and the Steelers' defense is more vulnerable than we can recall seeing them in a while. So I'll give the Colts the benefit of the doubt. I don't love picking them because it usually means a loss, but I'll go ahead and give them 20-10 on this one. Offensively, I think the Steelers will get to Matt Ryan for a few sacks, but Colts will get some chunk plays to the passing game that lead to productive drives. I think this could be a big one for like Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell. I'd love to say the tight ends, but the Colts just haven't really given the tight ends that much. They haven't made them a huge part of the passing game yet. So I think they could do it, but we have to see them actually try and do it first. On the defensive side of the ball, the Colts will have control over Kenny Pickett, I think, and the Steelers' offense. Maybe the Steelers get a big pass play to George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth that leads to a score and helps give them those 10 points. But overall, I just think it's going to be all Colts defense in that matchup. That will have the Colts moving to 5-6-1 on the season and give us more to talk about moving forward with a matchup against the Cowboys winning. That is it for us, everyone. Check back with us throughout the weekend for more at horseshoehuddle.com and Locked On Colts leading up to Monday night's matchup. Follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. Also be sure to subscribe to Locked On Colts on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also love your ratings and reviews. That's how we move up the charts and be visible to more of you guys. Thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. It's the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you soon.